Hey folks, it's Shooter. Well, good morning. We're doing our market recap a little early just because of my error in crypto. But at the end of our presentation, please review our disclosures. I'm just going to jump in and cover the indices and the dollar here. So, the dollar, we're right flat. I'm surprised we're not heavier on the indices because, we're up around 104. Usually above 103 puts a little pressure, gives us a headwind. Which, to a great extent, we're seeing that a little bit in the SPY and the NASDAQ. And let me transition over to that. The SPY, we're still right here at this October 2012 resistance at 459.19. We're just above that. So we've broken out above it. And we're trying to hold that 460 at this point this morning. So, I think that would, we're on that trajectory to that 485 as far as I'm concerned. But it would do nothing wrong to come back and back test this gap fill and fill that gap too at 441, then go. So, it wouldn't change my outlook at all. All right, looking at the NASDAQ, we're trying right now to stay above the breakout line from this prior high at that 393.07. So we're just a tad bit over there by a few change. So we're above that. Next target is this intermediate wave 1 at 402. Then we get a back test, which should push us below the breakout line. And then we head into the new year somewhere around 422 is what I think here. Now the Dow, really has been leading here. It's just this slow meandering grind, but the trajectory and the slope on this is aggressive. This indicates strong breath and quite a little bit of money's coming off the sideline. Everybody's betting on a huge rally into the first quarter. That's what the thought is at this point. So target is 390, so quite a ways up there as far as the Dow. Looking at the Russells, sort of the weak sister this morning, heading maybe to that 188 with a back test at 4. Now that I've scolded the puppy, he just starts whenever he hears something. And in cold weather, he hears everything. All right, let's jump over to TLT. Right now we're putting it looks like we're going to put in an inside week, at least where the candle is, so we should start that leg down to our 4. Now, one thing is that it came in a little shallow on our intermediate wave 3. So it actually has disappeared now, and it's telling me it's just going to be a primary wave. And right now I can't get it to tell me anything else. So that's basically what I think here. Close below, we could fill this gap, and it's done nothing wrong to the upside. Now looking at stocks, we gapped this morning, or gapped into this week, right at 8-day resistance. So, I would suspect that we have some all-time highs soon on the SOXX, heading to maybe 682 on our target 2. Actually, let me change that to target 1 now. I swear somebody comes in and edits my labels. There's a little green troll, comes in, changes things. Either that or it's saving the wrong thing and flipping it around. I don't know. Sure seems to me that way. All right, looking at XLK, maybe 194. We're just back testing our minor wave 1 now to our minor wave 2. Then our 3 is next up there. What is that? 190. So a little grind here in this to the upside. And XLY, consumer discretionary, a little flat, but it's still bullish to the upside. I'd like it to get above that gap, above that 8-day, really to get supportive. All right, let's jump over and look at crypto. Let's start off with Bitcoin. Nice little flush come in this morning. Whenever my counts get overshot, we should always be looking for a back test of 50% of the move, period, always. So in your structure, which is one of the reasons I covered GBTC when I cover. And, I'm scaling much more aggressively this morning than I was in micro Bitcoin futures because we now got the drawdown. Now I have a reason to do it. My target was 42. So I had some orders that got filled there this morning. Now, GBTC, we're still holding trend support. So maybe 31.56 is when we break down. Then we could actually back test 50% of this move and that whole structure. So we could come back to the 50-day at 26 if Bitcoin continues to sell. Now, one of my thoughts, I didn't like, we have the Bitcoin ETF applications deadlines starting January 1st, running out to about January 15th. And there are roughly 12 of them. And GBTC is first. So, this quagmire that we've had, with BlackRock updating their SEC filings, stating that there is some risk that Bitcoin could be designated a security by the SEC. Well, there's only one place that came from. When they did their initial draft to the SEC came back and said, no, we want this disclosure in there. And ultimately what that tells us is there are conversations somewhere. It may not be in the SEC. It may be in Congress. It may be the Financial Ways and Means Committee or whatever, who is discussing clarifying all Bitcoin as a security so they can shove the regulation up under the SEC at this point. So, I would say, yes, there is some risk. I think the difficulty is Congress doesn't have the support to ban crypto. Otherwise, I do think we would have had it banned already because they're afraid of it. So the only thing that potentially, and I put this in chat, is that potentially we have a quasi-ban kind of thing, where they declare it a security, unless there's some other regulation, like a constitutional right to own it, and it is not a security, it's classified as an asset, or some other regulation that gives it that kind of outline. So we would need something else, I think, to overcome that. Because if that language continues in that direction, I realize we haven't gotten approvals for what we should have. It's been too long. They've been avoiding it. They don't like the decentralized ledger because they can't shut off the on-ramps. I mean, basically, a company gets cut off in America, they just got to move to Europe and they can open up, or they can move to Dubai and they can reopen and they got on-ramps there. So, we don't have enough control of the banking system globally at this point, even though we control a big chunk of it. Not being able to shut down the on-ramps into Bitcoin is what scares them, that too much capital goes in there. So my thinking is 150 million in a Bitcoin value gets the market cap large enough where it scares the Fed, because now that transactions in Bitcoin will affect their ability to control the dollar, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we're safe till over 100K. And this hype is all around the Bitcoin ETFs, all the spot Bitcoin ETFs. I think it's baked in. I think we run. I don't know where to. I'm thinking 60, 65 by the end of the first quarter, barring any kind of an event. So it makes it very challenging to hold a position into this kind of regulatory turmoil, I'm going to call it, because there is a very good likelihood that some kind of regulation comes down that dampers down the enthusiasm in Bitcoin because they are afraid of it. So, of course, I'm going to, continue to scale in micro Bitcoin futures until Bitcoin reaches 100K. And I'm going to be hopeful that I don't get my knees chopped off. That's how I'm going to approach it at this point. I've looked at the numbers and I don't really want to take that much heat, because I'm thinking if they declare it a security, we're going to take a 50% haircut. I think quick, if not more. So that's been said. So now you understand the risk. All right. Ethereum, it came off just with everything else this morning. Quite a broad candle, back test the breakout. Now we've recovered quite a little bit. So that was some large sellers across the board in crypto. A lot of people exited. They probably saw the news about the SEC and sold, which I sort of expected that. All right. I want to cover a number of miners here because they did fairly well. Now, Hive this morning is giving back a lot more of that candle than I would have liked, but we're still holding. Bitfarms didn't give back much at all, so it's this 3 here that we see here. So now maybe we push to 278, back test to 243, and then we head towards our intermediate wave 3 around 381. Now, Bitfarms has done much better. And a lot of the reasons has to do with their, as Bitcoin jumps 10 grand, their profit margins continue to jump because they are the low cost producer. The only place that produces Bitcoin cheaper is China, because they don't pay for electricity in some of the mining facilities that are still running. There's very few of them still running because they basically kicked them out of the country. But, that low cost basis, they're not as large as I'd like them to be. I wish they had, a couple 100 million more miners than what they have. For sure. But, they're running off of hydro, and I think their fixed cost is 4 cents a kilowatt hour. And that's just, nobody's going to compete with that. And, they have capacity, I think, to go 3x the size of where they are. So I think it's a buyout candidate. As a matter of fact, I think BlackRock would buy these guys in a heartbeat. If BlackRock really, once the Bitcoin ETFs are approved, there's been some rumor that they're going to roll billions of dollars into the miners. Well, the smartest move is to acquire all the miners. That's the smartest thing. So that's a potential. Now, Marathon, I wanted to cover because I know some of you are holding. Didn't give, gave back pretty much all the candle this morning that we had, but we haven't given up too much. Still hovering around 1488. Next intermediate wave target is 23. But recognize this is the end of a C. So that means we're going to start a downtrend here in Marathon, which is one reason I didn't I've traded a marathon for years. I just didn't like the count. So at some point I have to decide whether the count is going to influence my trade or not. And 99% of the time it does. I don't trade against my counts unless I see something internally elsewhere that's telling me the count's wrong. That is the shortest way to look. Now, looking at Iris Energy, this is Kirk's baby. We basically gave up that whole candle. We're heading down for our B at 412. Then maybe we come up and put in a 662. And then I think we're done. I don't think we get a breakout here, but we could. The structure's there for a breakout. But right now, the AI is recognizing it as a negative count after that. Now, Monster did MicroStrategy. One of these days, I'll get the name right. MSTR, did nice gap, last week. And, it looks like we're going to put in an inside week here. We're still holding our own. I like the target up here around 863. Now, Coinbase wanted to cover that as well. So I like the look of Coinbase here as well. That we've got a little back test here, maybe 136, a shot at 277 later this year. So, I actually like Coin. I really do at this point. Nice structure as far as the count, nice recovery. We've taken out the breakout. We've now broken out. Now let's see if that back test holds. As long as we stay above the breakout line, I see no reason why you shouldn't scale on that. Now, I wanted to show Riot as well. Marathon and Riot, they historically, they were our leaders. They were our leaders in crypto miners. I don't know that that's the case anymore. I think that their P&Ls have gotten a little too heavy with debt. So right now the count says Riot is done at this intermediate wave 2 at 1605, and now we're heading for our 4 to the downside, or excuse me, our 3 intermediate wave 3 down here. Got in the wrong spot. Whether it manifests to a penny stock or not, that the count just measures, the prior legs, and it based on that breadth, it gives us the additional look. So now XRP, I still like it, still scaling. And I wanted to cover pins because it kept freaking running. Always the case. I was trimming down because I didn't want to carry into the holidays. I don't like trading around Christmas. I don't. I've taken 2 of my biggest losses in the Christmas week. So I stay away from it for that reason. All right. So, it looks like we are going to push towards 40 here. I'm hoping it gives me a back test. I really want to get back in. I'm hoping this breaks down from right here, gives me a little push below. Doesn't look like it's going to at this point. So for those of you who held, kudos. You did a better job than I did navigating that. All right, let's take a look at SHOP. Now, SHOP, I think we're going to bust out here. I wanted to go through that. Nice look to the upside. Then I wanted to address Nvidia. Now, notice we started that push, and today we've come in and we haven't gapped lower, but right now we're much lower than that candle. So it may continue to the downside. I mean, it's weak this morning. On whatever news was pushing it last week, obviously it's wanned if we're below 50% of that candle on our start of the week coming into that. And then I wanted to talk about Apple. We're down around 192. I've got a target up here of around 203. So I'm sort of waiting how it plays out today. I want to see where it closes. I pulled off my orders this morning. I probably would have gotten filled about an hour ago, but I decided to pull them just because of how aggressive that pull down was in crypto. Sometimes that rolls into the indices. So I wanted to see how that played out before I entered, but I still like this for a shot at 200. I think 200 is guaranteed. I just need to figure out exactly how I'm going to get in there and trade that. Right now, the most logical choice going into this week, just looking at it right here, is at the money calls, go with January's and, ride with that and take the profit there. That's probably what I'm going to jump to at this point. Because I would have liked to have seen it follow through. Unfortunately, I would have missed it that way. But, when the euphoria starts, you want it to continue. You don't want it to wane. So we break below. We got this little trend channel here, just so you know how I'm thinking. I'll post it in the room, when I do add something. See, we are a little bit below this trend channel right now. So I'm going to come in and just my assumption of the slope is I would like it much better here. So if we get back to 181, 182, 183, I'm definitely on board for a shot, and I'm probably going to buy right at the money. Just looking what our 50% back is what I always look for. So, even if you look at this leg from our 2 to our 3, 50% backs right here, we got it, right? If you look at this leg from here to here, 50% is a little bit lower, but we got pretty close to it. So if your assumption is always 50% back, this leg, 50% back, we got it. This leg down, 50% back, we got it, et cetera, et cetera. I can go through hundreds of stocks and quote that. Very simple methodology to understand where you are. We got a nice little push here in Apple. It would be nice if it wins, and then we go right into New Year and boom. Because I think that's what happens. I think the gates open after New Year's, and Apple is one of the stocks that gets the FOMO and everybody chases it because of this breakout line here. Because everybody's going to look at all these stocks and they're going to say, well, what looks the best? And they're going to come in and say, oh, wow, Apple gets above that breakout. What's it going to measure? And I'm just going to show you what it measures from my visual perception. It measures to 203.34. Okay. Now, if I come in and I take that out and I assume that is a 5-wave impulse leg, measure that same leg, where does it measure? 236. So I see a target between 203 and 236 on Apple from the breakout. More likely, the impulse move on a breakout is that 236. And that's what I see internally that I like. Okay. Not necessarily the fact that we're up here around 190. That's not really the point. The point is the structure of the breakout and how that looks. So hopefully that was helpful. But I will post in the room, as I enter or if I enter, and we'll go from there. Other than that, folks, great trading. We'll catch you next time.